How are you? You know, I hope that was my story. Was it? Okay, it was. I'm Nel Munyiri, but those are not the names that my mom gave to me. Those are the names I decided I want to use. But my real names are Nelson Munyiri. Those are the names that my grandmother always calls me. And I was born and raised in Mukuru. Mukuru is one of the biggest slums in Kenya. Just so many people don't know about it, but it's just because all of you, almost everyone here has used a plane, isn't it? And most of you use Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, isn't it? I can't hear you, isn't it? So Mukuru is just next to the airport. So you will come all the way, but when you want to see a slum, you will come all the way to Kibera. But you'll just pass over the highway and leave Mukuru over there. So Mukuru is one of the biggest slums. I grew up in this single mother family, and it wasn't a very easy life. And when I tell my story, I don't tell my story so that people can feel pity. I don't tell my story so that it can be the usual cliche, you know, the success. You know, when people are telling success stories, they decide to use the very bad thing about their past. But I tell this story because it's a story of so many young people around Kenya and even around the world. But one thing I always want people to know is that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what kind of family you grew up in. It's all about your conscience. Because as I grew up in Mukuru, basically, if I depended for my mom to be able to pay for my school fees, to be able to take me all the way to college, maybe I'll be one of those people who will never have seen a classroom. But because people, and I appreciate, and that's why I love people, I appreciate people who believed in my potential, the people who believed with me even before they knew me and decided to support my education. And so growing up in Mukuru kwa Ruben, I went to a school called Gatoto Primary School, and most of the time it was the church that was paying for my school fees, because then it was a community school, not a public school. Because in Mukuru, it has different informal settlement. That's why you find Mukuru kwa Ruben, Mukuru kwa Njenga, Mukuru Kayaba, Viwandani. So it's not just one slum as Kibera. In fact, Mukuru is bigger than Kibera. It's just that it's divided into different villages. So in the whole of those settlements, you only find like 5 public schools that can be able to not handle more than even 5,000. And there isn't just one section of Mukuru, only one, like Mukuru kwa Ruben, has 10,000 kids who have to be in primary schools. So imagine, in only kwa Ruben, we only have one school that is a public school that cannot be able to have all these 10,000 kids. So you get the idea when I tell you I went to a community school that was started by someone, so I had to pay school fees. And when I was in primary school, I had so many of my friends. And during my education in Gatoto, that's when I was enrolled into the music club. I went up to the national level in class 7 and class 8. And from there, I developed the love of music. But then my dream kind of shattered when I got to high school, because then the primary school determined the school I will go in high school. So they did not choose a school that I could go and continue with my music. I was taken to a school that was not doing anything else apart from football, volleyball, and running. I was a good runner, but not a competitive runner. So I'll just run in school, but never go for co-curriculum activity outside. And but we were able to struggle, because I had another friend who came just from a neighboring settlement. So we decided we decided to push for a poetry club, and we did that. But then, unfortunately, we only reached so we did a narrative with him, but we only got to provincial level. So I finished my high school. while in high school, my mom really believed in, in what I want to do, my music. So I did the first song when I was high school, but then she decided to support my second song. The reason why, even when you search for the song, you cannot be able to listen to them, because they were of very good content, but very bad quality, because, of course, I could not afford enough money to go to a very good studio. So this is Mukuru. I grew up when the slum was growing, so we grew up together. It was a very big section. The only section you see written, can I see it? Beans, Gatope, Kariobangi, those, when I was growing up, that was the only area. The other areas used to have, it was a swampy area, just shrubs and kind of stuff. But as I was growing up, the slum was growing up, and that's the area in gray, that is just a part of Mukuru. There are other places that are not indicated in the map. And when in primary school, I can be able to count not less than 10 of my friends who were very close friends, guys who were very talented. One of them being one of the guys who were mentoring me to do my music. And they were gunned down because they decided to get into crime. Not because it was a choice for them, but then the circumstances. When you come from such a slum, you don't have support system. I was privileged to at least have people supporting my education. Some of these people did not have the privilege to be supported and to make sure that they're doing something. So crime is one of the big things that I grew up, and I always say I'm happy that I was a coward because then I could not have the courage to carry a gun, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm alive today. So you can see my face at the background, but also the small kids you see there, that was me when in primary school. That is the same school that I was in, but then you can see when it rains, you can be able to wear my very good Converse shoes to school. You have to wear gumboots. And then that's me years after. So I decided to follow my music and continue without anyone's support. In 2013, together with my friends, we decided to start an event called the Mukuru Awards. The Mukuru Awards is the biggest event in Mukuru. It's just getting to appreciate the small things that people do in the community. By looking at what people are doing in the community and at least appreciating, recognizing, and giving them a platform for people to know what they're doing. That was last year. So the event has grown. So we did the 5th edition. And one thing that keeps me going is because of my music. That's why we were able to start such an initiative and getting to motivate young people to make sure that they're not in crime, they're not in drug acts. And now, Mukuru is one of the safest slums you can be able to go. You can go there by your own. You don't need someone to take you around. But it's only because of the young people in Mukuru who are able to make sure that they take the action of making sure that crime goes down by different initiatives. Currently, we have over 10 different events that young people themselves do their own events. So it's all about the power of growth. The event has grown from just an event that had hundreds of people to an event that has grown to having thousands of people. And the initiative and the engagement every day. But still, the level of inequality is still very high. Because still in Mukuru, you'll go and only find like 3 or 2 police posts, not police stations. But coming to you again, the areas that you live now, how many police stations do you have? Let me give an example of Lavington, or the area around Kilimani, which is one of the richest, like middle-class neighborhoods that has almost 4 police stations. Go to Mukuru, a population, Kilimani has roughly 200,000 people living around there. Go to Mukuru, a population of more than 600,000 people. There are only, like in Kwarube, only 1 police station, an area that has almost 100,000 people living. You can tell the inequalities, when you're talking about inequalities, like the security is one of the things. Go there when I'm talking about only having very few public schools. 5, go to Kilimani. Most kids who come from Ikibera, because my studio is just near Adams Arcade. And so many times when I'm going to the studio, I meet kids who are coming from Kawangware, and Kibera. Kawangware and Kibera are the informal settlements around Lavington and Kilimani. So the kids walk to Kilimani to come to school, but the kids from Kilimani area will go to other schools. So it could tell you that in their neighborhoods, they cannot be able to access the education. They cannot be able to access the public schools that they are supposed to. They cannot be able to get education. They have to come to these neighborhoods for them to get schools. So one thing I always push, and Ben is here, he knows, I always push to make sure whatever initiative that people do, whatever people do, they always focus on the people. I always say I don't support the government decided to look at our economy by saying the GDP and kind of stuff. Because I believe if we don't invest in the people, if we don't make sure that people from the grassroots, if I can, we had the standard gauge railway from Nairobi to Mombasa, but then someone in Mukuru cannot be able to feel any impact of whatever that is bringing. When you're saying the economy, when you're saying Kenya is a middle income country, someone in Mukuru cannot be able to feel it because we're measuring GDP, but we're not making sure that we give the impact to the lowest person down there in the grassroots. And that's what I always push. I always say that it's very important that we are able to push. And because my talk says life is all about being young, because being young is one of those places that you can be able to make a lot of change. You have a lot of energy. You have a lot of creativity. We have a lot of, like everything, everything is associated to young age, apart from wisdom. We're told that we young people are very rational, are very not patient. But then I always defend and say that's not the truth, because at the end of it, we're able to experience. Mukuru has the almost 80% of the people living in Mukuru are people below the age of 35, most of them being children. So you can be able to tell the only change that we can be able to talk about is by making sure we focus on these 80%. Because if we focus so much on the 20%, then we're missing the point. You'll have a generation whereby we'll go back, we'll have the same cycle. We'll be talking about crime again, we'll be talking about drugs abuse, only because we are not able to invest in these biggest population that we have. So, after I finished high school, again, I wanted to go to a journalism. I wanted to be a journalist. But then, again, going back to my mom, she was like, I don't have any money to be able to pay for your college. Ever since that time, I told her that I appreciate everything you've been able to give to me, but then I think it's time I took things into my hands. So there was a project that was being started in the community. So I went, so they were teaching graphic design and web development. So I went, I did that. And that was only something to add into what I was doing. I was not doing that so that I can be able to create a career, but I was doing that so that whatever I was already doing in the community can be able to have something to support. Currently, all the graphic design, all the development and everything, I don't hire anyone to do that for our small initiative. So, I started an initiative called the Mukuru Youth Initiative, whereby it only came as a birth of the Mukuru Awards, the event that I'm talking about. And now it's a platform that we can be able to have more young people participate in making a change in the community. We can have a platform whereby we can be able to push and make sure the relevant people, the government, or whatever is needed to be done in the community, or anyone who want to take an initiative and do something in the community, it's a space that we're able to do that. So, the Mukuru Initiative, like now we have different young people who are participating in filmmaking. We have different young people who are participating in music. And that is being able to make sure that we push for that. Because, you know, when you're born in such a situation, unless you come out of it, it's when you realize things are different. For most of us, when we were growing up, it was normal. It was normal for us to go without food. It was normal for us to not have very good sanitation. It was normal for us not to have good housing. And still, you start realizing that it's not your fault. It's not the same thing that you think it's normal. It's not, it's never normal. And some of us, the reason why we decide to push and make sure that things happen, it's not because we really focus on our own lives, but it's because we know by our own progress it's the only way that other young people in such informal settlement can be able to see that they can be able to do something. I'll end with this. Yesterday, I've not been in Mukuru for the last 2 weeks. I've been doing things outside. And when yesterday I went back there, this young man saw me and ran into me. So he ran towards me. I was like surprised. I was wondering what was happening. And then he came and stood. He was really smiling. And so I was like really surprised because it's someone I know, but then I've never seen them being this jovial. So when he came, he was like, Nelmo, you're going far. I was like, what are you talking about? He said he had a dream. He dreamed that I was this big artist, and then we had this very big concert, and I was going back there to be able to give them, to give the other young people a platform. But then I just thought to myself, it's not something that I want to do. It's something that we're already doing. So the dream that he has is just a dream to make sure that we progress from where I am to somewhere else. And it's not about Nelmo. It's about every young person in Mukuru who will make sure that they are being role model in the community and they're doing something to make sure that they are not just an inspiration to the community, but an inspiration to the whole nation and the whole world. Thank you so much.